Number 1. Being too attractive. Imagine getting dressed up, you do your hair, you put yourself together very well. You know you look fresh. You step out into the neighborhood only to have the whole block staring at you like Kurt Angle. Yes, this is exactly what was discouraged during the Middle Ages. Being too attractive could actually make you a witch. You see, in a society dominated by strict religious doctrines and patriarchal control, women or men, but in the Middle Ages, mainly women, who defied conventional standards of attractiveness, were often viewed with suspicion. The belief was that witches used their beauty and charm to seduce and manipulate others that contributed to the association between attractiveness and witchcraft. Furthermore, the fear of the devil's dark influence and temptation was pervasive during Middle Ages, and exceptionally attractive individuals were sometimes perceived as being under the spell of dark forces. Number 2. Walking backward. Hitting a Michael Jackson in the Middle Ages will get you put 6 feet under. Walking backward was an intolerable act that was linked to witchcraft due to the prevailing superstitions and fears surrounding it. In a society where conformity was highly valued and any deviation from the norm was viewed with suspicion, walking backward was seen as a delicate and unnatural act. What's even more funny is people often believe that witches had the supernatural ability to perform these unconventional actions like walking backward, which is dumb because most humans know they can walk backwards. To add to that, the act of walking backward was often interpreted as a symbolic reversal of the natural order, aligning with the perceived chaotic and sinister nature of witchcraft. Number 3. Knowing how to swim. Yeah, bro, according to the Middle Ages, if you know how to swim, you're cooked. Back in the Middle Ages, anyone who knew how to swim was guaranteed to be put on a t-shirt. In the Middle Ages, witches would often be subjected to float tests. If a person was accused of witchcraft, they'd be thrown into a body of water. And if they float, they die. Well, what happens if you sink? You win, right? Unless you possess the powers of Barnacle Boy or Mermaid Man, you're cooked. Okay, well maybe you can just swim away. Nah, because then you'll be seen as a witch, so you still die. Since drowning was considered a typical fate for witches, the ability to swim was seen as evidence of an unnatural resistance to water, suggesting a pact with the devil, and this paradoxical reasoning led to the absurd notion that those who could swim or float were witches, as they seem to have defied the expected outcome of drowning. There's no winning that battle. Number 4. Sneezing too loud. We've all ran into that one person who breaks the sound barrier, causes earthquakes, and puts fear in the heart of all eardrums across the world every time they sneeze. You'll be called a witch for sneezing too loud back in the Middle Ages. This was due to the superstitions surrounding bodily functions and their belief in supernatural influence. Having an unusual loud sneeze, a particularly loud or distinctive sneeze, could be interpreted as a signal of casting spells or summoning evil spirits, leading to suspicion and accusations. Also, fun fact, the term bless you was originated in the Middle Ages. They believed that saying bless you after you sneeze would keep you from logging out of life. They also believed it would prevent you from having another spirit enter your body. The unfounded association between loud sneezing and witchcraft contributed to the persecution of individuals who displayed this behavior, and therefore their actions were misconstrued as evidence of a malevolent connection to the occult. Number 5. You seem to possess unusual knowledge. It's true, in the Middle Ages, having unusual knowledge or being well educated could bring both admiration and danger. Take Johannes Junius for example, a clever town clerk in Bamberg, Germany. He was highly educated and respected in his community for his intelligence and knowledge. However, during the Bamberg witch trials of 1628, his smarts became a problem. People mistrusted his ability to read and write, seeing it as suspicious in a time filled with fear of witchcraft. Even though Junius protested his innocence, authorities tortured him to confess. But they didn't know that Junius was a super giga Chad Sigma male and he was willing to stand on business. Even in his torture, he stood on his principles and refused to admit to crimes he didn't commit, which led to his tragic end at the hands of the executioner. Junius' story shows how being smart and educated could sometimes lead to dire consequences in a time where knowledge was viewed with fear and suspicion. It also didn't help that his wife also accused of witchcraft. Number 6. Having red hair. Walking around in the Middle Ages looking like Meredith will have you on a public display execution in no time. Having red hair in the Middle Ages was often erroneously associated with witchcraft due to the combination of superstition, cultural biases, and fear of the unfamiliar. Red hair was often considered rare compared to other hair colors. Its uniqueness therefore contributed to its association with the unusual and unworldly, fostering superstitions that linked those people with redheads to supernatural phenomena. Also, it didn't help that redheads, depending on the circumstances, could sometimes have a strong negative perceived cognition in the Middle Ages. Red hair was sometimes associated with Judas Iscariot, who betrayed Jesus in Christian tradition. Judas was sometimes depicted with red hair in medieval art, and this association may have contributed to negative perceptions of redheads. Number 7. You eat too much. Oh, how times have changed from being called to a witch to now having out-of-pocket mukbangs. Excessive eating was often viewed as a manifestation of greed and gluttony, both of which were considered sinful behaviors. In a deeply religious society, any behavior deviating from the perceived moral standards could land you into being called a witch back in the Middle Ages. And not only that, excessive indulgence in food was also seen as succumbing to earthly desires, and people believed that such behavior could only be influenced by the devil. Number 8. Owning a mirror. If you had a mirror during the Middle Ages, you'll be named as a witch. Mirrors were considered mysterious objects capable of revealing hidden truths and connecting individuals with the spiritual realm. For some, they believed that mirrors could capture and reflect the soul, and the fear of vanity and self-obsession associated with mirrors would greatly contribute to the misconception that owning a mirror would make you a witch. Additionally, mirrors were thought to be tools for divination and scrying, practices believed to unveil the future or communicate with otherworldly entities. Number 9. Owning a black cat. Imagine that you're seated comfortably in your house cuddling a black cat of yours, when suddenly an unusual crowd of people appears out of nowhere chanting and wanting to demolish your house. Black cats were often linked to ancient pagan beliefs, and in medieval Christian Europe were erroneously viewed as symbols of the devil or witches' familiars. To be honest, even up to now in 2024, there's still some individuals out there who still have a certain phobia or superstition for black cats, claiming it represents bad luck. You know, the black cat's nocturnal habits, stealthy movements, and association with mystery have terribly destroyed its reputation. Some people believe that witches could transform into black cats, using them as supernatural companions to carry out their dark deeds, and the fear of these shape-shifting abilities led to the widespread belief that owning a black cat was evidence of witchcraft. Number 10. Suspected broomstick ownership. During the witch hunts of the early modern period, keep in mind this one isn't strictly for Middle Ages, anyways, owning a broomstick became entangled with dangerous implications due to its symbolism, supernatural associations, and the pervasive climate of misunderstanding and fear. We all know about Harry Potter and flying broomstick fights. From way back in past, broomsticks deeply embedded in folklore and popular imagination were commonly associated with witches gliding through the night sky. This connection to the occult stirred deep-seated fears and contributed to the suspicion surrounding broomsticks. In times of social upheaval and widespread paranoia, such as during the witch hunts, minor or innocuous details like owning a broomstick could put you on a first-class trip to meet God. Imagine finding out people are actively hunting you down during a witch hunt only because Johnny from down the block saw you were once in possession of a broomstick. Number 10. You have personal hygiene. People during the Middle Ages did not take personal hygiene very seriously due to the lack of technology as compared to today. And therefore, for anyone of this time, 2024 that is, if you were to perform the same hygienic practices like brushing your teeth with a toothbrush, you'd be deemed unusual. Individuals who bathed frequently or used perfumes and oils to mask body odor would be accused of witchcraft because excessive cleanliness in today's time would be associated with vanity, which was seen as sinful. As a result, individuals back then who deviated from accepted norms of personal hygiene, whether due to poverty, illnesses, or simply just a lack of access to proper bathing facilities, were sometimes viewed with suspicion. Trying to stay extra clean in the circumstances you were born in may actually put you in the dirt. Number 11. You were too charitable. Did I really just catch you being a good human being? Oh, it's nothing. I just follow what the good Lord says. He's over here! In a world where scarcity and struggle were commonplace, the notion of someone freely giving without expecting anything in return would be seen as unnatural or even sinister. Those who exhibited such behavior would be viewed with suspicion, their actions interpreted as attempts to gain favor from supernatural entities in exchange for their generosity. Furthermore, the belief in witchcraft often revolved around the idea of individuals making pacts with demons or other malevolent forces to attain wealth, power, or influence. From this perspective, someone who demonstrated extraordinary generosity would be perceived as attempting to curry favor with these dark forces in pursuit of personal gain. Their acts of charity might be seen as offerings or sacrifices made to appease the supposed entities with whom they had forged alliances. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk, and remember, knowledge is power. Cheers!
Knowledge.